Welcome, everyone. We are now live on Facebook. So, welcome to the Words and Nerds Book Party podcast episode. This will be into a podcast soon, but we thought we'd, being Friday night, we'd have a ladies' night in and we'd have a bit of a chat about Angela May George's new book. So, we have a lovely lineup tonight and we're here to celebrate you and your book, Angela. So, thank you for bringing us all together for this. Your new YA novel, Step Up, Shine On. So welcome to you, Angela.
Hi, Danny.
Now, we also welcome Georgia Free, broadcaster and producer for Hope 103.2 Radio in Sydney. It's lovely to have you here, Georgia. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Danny. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to have a ladies' night in, isn't it? Maybe one day we can do it in person. Maybe we'll pencil that in for 2023 or something. We also welcome Bookish Bron, a book blogger and enthusiast. I can certainly relate to being enthusiastic about books. People are always saying to me, do you ever not like a book? I'm like, well, why would I talk about a book I don't like? I only talk about the books that I love. So welcome, Bron.
Thank you so much. I get a lot of that too. And thanks, Angela, for having me as well.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're here.
We are the Molly Meldrum of books, Bron. I get it.
Yeah, yes.
There's enough negativity in the world. I don't want to take up my life with that. So
exactly. I only read books I think I'll like, and I like to talk about them when I do.
That's it. That's the way I think. World's negative enough. Just go on Twitter for 3 minutes. So we are here to celebrate the book party, to celebrate Step Up, Shine On. So Angela, would you like to start by giving us an elevator pitch as to what this wonderful book is about?
It's about a girl who doesn't back herself. She purposely fails her exams so that she can stay in the lower classes because she just doesn't want to put in the effort. She doesn't want to put herself out there. She wants to fly under the radar. And it's all to avoid being noticed and judged, and and she learns that, hey, that's probably not the best idea. I'm not really living my full life if I do that. And it's her friends and her family that help her realize that. And I love it. I love the story.
It's a great story. And just when you said that about, and we'll talk about women because we're all women here and we'll live from our experiences, but do you feel like you've not backed yourself in life? Because I do all the time. Have you guys felt like that too?
Definitely. Imposter syndrome all the time.
Yes, imposter syndrome. There's a name for it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just that self-doubt as well. So I think we can, even though we're not a YA audience, I love YA books regardless, but I think it's important, even a message for us, to sometimes you just have to back yourself. And as well as that, if you fail, well, that's okay. You just go try something new. It's not going to destroy you. So it's a great message, I think, Angela.
Thank you.
Now, Georgia, you've got a question for Angela. I'll throw to you.
I do. Angela, look, one of the things I love most about your novels is the celebration of ethnic diversity, but in a really real and authentic way. I love the way you weave it into your book so effortlessly. Especially in this book, Step Up, Shine On, we see Kat kind of wrestle with her Polishness and then in the end learn to embrace it as, she starts to really reveal her true self. How important do you think it is for kids of Australia to read about different ethnicities, different cultures in their books?
Well, I just think, obviously, I think it's extremely important. And I think that middle grade to YA age group, they really need to see themselves represented in literature. So, whether it be something about their ethnicity, whether it be something about their sexuality, whether it be, a particular disability that they may have. I just think that literature has a responsibility to show all different types of people and to have all different types of people see themselves represented in stories.
You do that so well. So I've loved it.
And hopefully it's funny.
I laughed on the first page. Like I was reading the first page.
That's a good
sign.
And
I was laughing. Yeah.
Angela, did you find that, I found this being of mixed sort of culture and race myself, but did you find that when you were growing up, maybe in the 80s or whatever, that there weren't many representations of you in books, TV, literature, etc.?
Yeah, I felt like everybody around me looked like Charlene from Neighbours.
Yes, I feel that.
I was just this, I don't know, exotic looking, I don't know, Greek girl. But I think that when I grew up, I felt like I was the diversity in the suburb in which I grew up. And I hated that. I hated being the only one, you know. It was crazy, you know. I felt like we were the only ones blaring out Greek music in the car when we were washing it out the front. And yeah, no, I think we need to show more of that.
It's interesting because I grew up, you know, an Australian mother, and you know my identity was completely Australian, and it wasn't until I went to school that I realised that, well, people, you know, were kindly pointed it out to me. It wasn't kindly at all, but I did look very different, and I was like, oh, okay, look, who am I then? So it's interesting, and I'm glad you have that diversity now that we might have missed out on, or maybe we're reading the wrong things. Maybe it's a combination of the two. I'm not sure.
No, I really don't think, Danny, I really don't think there was anything for us to read.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I really don't think there was. Otherwise, I would have read it. I'm sure my mum would have bought me a book and said, hey, look, you know, there's a story about, you know, a girl who's Italian or she's Greek or she's Chinese or whatever, and she's finding it difficult at school too. But I think the first writer for me to represent just the jokes and the complications of being of a different ethnic background was Melina Marchetta in the Alibrandi book. I just loved it. Oh gosh, I just read it and went, oh wow.
You found yourself. Yeah, look, I'm still waiting for the Australian / Indonesian / Dutch protagonist. I might be waiting for quite a while.
You might just have to write it, Danny. You know, they say if you can't find the books that you want to read, you have to write them yourself.
There you go. That's what I should be doing for Nano.
Yes.
Bron, you have a question for Angela.
Yeah, and this I think this leads on a little bit from that discussion. I really love Australian literature, and I was just wondering what you think makes it so special and why it's important for people not only to see themselves but also, you know, in this Australian setting and really specifically.
I think our humour is so unique, and the Australian humour is so unique, and I think we've really grown up with diversity, and I think now we're appreciating that we are different from the rest of the English-speaking world. And I kind of noticed this because when my publisher Scholastic go to sell my book at international trade fairs, I think they read the first page that you read and laughed at, Bron. They read it and go, oh, what? So I think Australian literature is just, it's very unique in its humour. We have that self-deprecating approach, and I think I kind of like it. I kind of think it keeps us all down to earth. So, you know, I think it sort of battles against that whole silliness of the selfie culture, and let's use a filter and look at me, and then we can use this Australian humour to just go, oh God, look at me, you know. I think that Australian literature is really good like that. Yeah, I mean, of course, we've got loads of serious topics that we write about too in Australia. I know, you know, my first picture book was about refugees, and I'm sorry, but there's nothing funny about that. So I think that, you know, as humorous as we can be, we're also, you know, unafraid to tackle the big topics.
Absolutely. And you talk about backing yourself and believing yourself, and then you sort of couple that with the self-deprecating humour of Australia. But sometimes I find, you know, it's good to be self-deprecating, it's good to be down to earth. I definitely agree with that. But sometimes I feel like it makes us not be able to celebrate ourselves because people are like, oh, like, you know, get over yourself kind of thing. And I think, and I was speaking to someone, I don't know if it's the same for you guys, I'm interested to hear that instead of accepting a compliment graciously, someone will give you a compliment and you'll be like, oh no, don't be silly, or oh no, I didn't try that hard, or oh no, it was nothing, or I just threw this outfit together. And I find that, you know, that could be kind of a bit dangerous for us as humans as well, because wouldn't it be nice to just be able to accept that compliment? But we're so, I don't know what it is, if it's our culture or we're so full of self-doubt, or we just feel uncomfortable saying thank you. We have to deflect and say, no, that can't be true. Isn't that, do you experience that?
I think that's definitely a thing. And I'm more aware of it now that, like, I have a daughter who's 6 years old, and I'm really aware of not wanting to model that sort of not being able to take a compliment or putting myself down or any of those sorts of things in front of her. And it's really made me a lot more aware of when I do it, and really trying not to, and being like, yeah, no, my hair is great. Well, thank you, my dress has pockets, or whatever.
Love a dress with pockets. Who doesn't love a dress with pockets? Oh my God. Bron, that's interesting you say with a 6-year-old. I've got a 6-year-old daughter as well, and they love themselves, and they should, because they're beautiful, and they look at themselves and they just see this wonder and beauty in them, as we do. But I wonder when that stops. And we've all been teenage girls, and that's fraught with so many things. But I wonder what the turning point is, and what the external influences are that make you start seeing yourself in that more negative light.
I think it's earlier now. I think the external influences come into play earlier, because children as young as 6, they'll stand over their mum's shoulder while she's scrolling through Instagram and things like that. So when my daughters were growing up, I don't think that they had that, because I've got, my daughters are quite a bit older than yours. My eldest daughter is 20, so I just think that because they've got access to those images, they compare themselves earlier on, so which is such a worry, really such a worry.
What do you think, Georgia?
I did have a lot of this stuff growing up, I think, really early on. I don't know if it was just an internal thing or if it was external influences as well, but I actually, a turning point for me in the opposite direction was when I moved to the States for 6 months on student exchange when I was 15. I turned 16 over there, and there's something really strange about American culture. They just really don't let you put yourselves down. They just give compliment after compliment, and I found it so uncomfortable. but 6 months of that, it just really changed the way I kind of thought about myself. And yeah, of course, when you return home and that self-deprecation
Australia will bring you back to Earth.
Comes back through. Even today, sitting in a meeting with my boss, and he's, giving me praise, and I'm like, oh, this is so icky. But I think it is really important to just, I don't know if it's a combination of, a female thing as well as an Australian thing. I think it's just almost, two evils coming together. And when you're a young Australian woman, it's just really hard sometimes to kind of really build yourself up. But I think it is really important to listen to the support around you, the people who love you, because I think sometimes they have a more accurate picture of who you are than.
And kids do as well. My daughter, I was feeling really sick one day and awful. And, I said, I have to go out in public, so I need to, put some proper clothes on. And she's like, I don't care what you look like. I just want you to be my mum. And I just went, oh my God, like, why can't we bottle that and keep that when we grow up, Which leads us, Georgia, into this very good question about strong women.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Angela, I know you're the mum of 2 amazing daughters. I'm one of 3 sisters, and I love reading about strong female characters, especially when I was a kid. What do you love most about developing these characters in your books?
I love taking little bits of loads of different people I know, the bits I love about them, and just, building this character from all the different bits of people that I love. It's an amalgamation of fantastic women, and people often say, oh wow, so in my first novel, is Dora based on one of your children? I'm like, no, she's not. And this new one, Kat is a soccer player, and one of my daughters plays soccer. So it must be about her. I'm like, no, it's about every woman I've ever spoken to. And that's what being a writer is. You you don't know that you're doing it at the time, but you're listening to someone tell you a story, and you're just saving little bits in your head, and it all just comes out on the pages when you're writing. It's amazing. So that's what I love about creating strong women characters, is that, you know, these characters are little bits of everybody that I know.
And what I'm really passionate about too, Angela, is, you know, I think it was the old days when there's a female protagonist, it was a book for girls. And when there's a male protagonist, it's a book for boys. And I'm really against it. I have one of each, a boy and a girl. And so I'm really encouraging of just reading all books from all protagonists' perspectives, because I really don't like that being trapped in this, oh, you're a boy, you can only read this perspective. You know, so I really hope that people, you know, start reading outside that narrowness of protagonists.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. The publishers are completely on board with that, Danny. You know, my publisher, Claire Halifax at Scholastic, she's all for that. She's like, this is not a book for girls, Angela. This is a book.
About humans, yeah. And it's about humans and it's
Absolutely.
for humans, you know. So, yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bron, you had a question about middle grade and YA books?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I really love reading middle grade and YA and find them really relatable, even though I'm apparently grown up. I wondered whether you always knew that was who you wanted to write for, or whether that was just how your stories came out. And what do you think it is that's important about, you know, writing these great characters and stories for people, you know, in those age ranges of, you know, primary school, young adults?
Well, it's really funny, and I'm going to reveal this really raw side of myself. You know, you say that you're grown up, Ron, and obviously I'm grown up as well. I can see the wrinkles as I speak. But I'm still that person I was inside when I was, you know, in high school and primary school, and certain events still trigger feelings of, you know, maybe complete awkwardness or that the sharp sting of rejection and things like that. I just think that as grown-ups, we just become better at hiding it, but we still feel it and we still remember what it feels like. And even though I do write for that middle grade YA age group, I know that, you know, older people like us read those books because they can still relate. Yeah, still relate to the stories.
Yeah. I agree, absolutely. Now, I love YA fiction, and I think it's got a lot in it for grown-ups.
Look at us, grown-ups.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because you feel really young, and then you see yourself sometimes in the mirror, you're like, oh, that's interesting. You know, very happy to age gracefully, you know, but sometimes you're, that's interesting. I thought I looked a lot different. Georgia?
Yep, sorry, just finding my question here.
We're just having too much fun.
Yes. Angela, I have a question. Oh, actually, this is for all of you about content saturation in the media. I think working in media myself, I see so much content out there, whether it's news or books or podcasts or social media accounts. And I just want to know that when you create your work, Angela, do you write specifically for an audience that you hope will capture your voice, or do you kind of put it out into the universe and kind of whoever grabs onto it, that's amazing? Like, what's the kind of I guess thought process behind that?
I write my story and my publisher figures out who it's for.
I love that.
People think that you have all this control when you're a writer, but you don't. You just, you know, it's in a way it is really an art. You can't change your art. It's just your self-expression, and this is the way I self-express. so I can write a piece, and my agent always has first look at it, and she'll sort of say, oh wow, I can really see, you know, kids who are about 7 or 8 reading this and just loving it, or oh, this is almost adult fiction, Angela. She says that always with a really surprised tone in her voice. and then usually she's bang on, because the publishers will agree and say, yeah, no, it's great. You know, we can really see that for this age group, you know, whatever it may be. So no, I don't write specifically with an age group in mind. I just write.
And that's funny you say that, Georgia, because speaking from a podcast perspective, with the lockdown, I see new podcasts popping up all the time. And, you know, you've got two choices. You can go, oh, another bloody podcast, or you can go, cool, another podcast talking about books. Welcome to the fold. And I've chosen the latter because it's too exhausting to do the former. And, you know, if people want to listen, they'll listen to you. And everyone's got a point of difference. You know, we might all be talking about books, but we're all different. You know, I think I capture that kind of awkward, have no idea what I'm doing type of host. You know, and that seems to be working so far. I don't know.
That is not the vibe I'm getting from you, Danny, at all.
No, same.
But that's just the narrative in my head, right? That's self-doubt.
That's your
thing.
imposter.
Yeah, it is. Inside my head, I was like, no idea what I'm doing. So I'm glad that's not coming out too obviously. But yeah, I think you just celebrate it. And I don't know whether it's been lockdown and people have been more inside or whatever, but, you know, the podcast has just, you know, the numbers have just, you know, it tripled this last year. And
That's
so
fantastic.
You think there's 8 billion people in the world. There's enough ears for lots of podcasts, you know. So I've actually been contacting other podcasts and say, hey, let's do a crossover, you know, instead of, you know, we're not in competition. Let's just be together in this book community and celebrate books and wanting to talk about books. I mean, that's why I started it, because my family were too bored of me talking about books all the time. Well, I'll go find my people then. What about you, Bron?
That's your why, is it? Is that your why?
Absolutely. That's my why. It's like no one else would listen to me. So I'm like, well, I'm going to find people to talk about books with. What about you, Bron? You're a book blogger?
Yeah, absolutely. I think blogging is an interesting space at the moment, I guess, because I think a lot of people do it, but that's not where a lot of people see most of their you know, engagement with people. Everything's happening on Instagram, or a lot is happening on Instagram.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a lot of Bookstagram accounts, and it's really fun. Same thing, like it's just fun to welcome people, to talk together, to share, you know, our favorite books, all of that sort of thing. And I think probably something that I think about more is about the space that I'm taking up when I agree to review a book, or, you know, when I agree for a publisher to send me a book. Am I the right person to talk about this? What can I add to the conversation? How can I be, I guess, a good ally for some of the, you know, groups that aren't represented well? I don't want to take space away from someone else who could be talking, you know, about an own voices.
Yeah, I really
book,
like that.
that sort of thing. And especially because I am a lot in, you know, the YA space, and I'm a little bit older than YA people. And so I do think I think a lot about, you know, saturation and space that we take up in that kind of way as well.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that idea. I like that of considering whether you're the right person. And that is my biggest flaw. I'm like, yes, I want to talk to everyone. And then I end up having 5 interviews a week. And then I'm like, how am I supposed to do this? I need a bit of your advice, Bron.
I think you should do exactly what you're doing, because it seems to be working very well.
I may need to sleep sometimes.
Overrated.
Yeah, it is. Sleep's for the weak, right?
Yeah.
Bron, did you have a last question?
Yeah, I did actually. It's about Step Up, Shine On, your latest book, Angela. So the protagonist, Kat, we see her grow, like we've touched on that a little bit in our discussion so far. We see her grow a lot from the start of the book to the end of the book, and change quite a bit. And I just wondered whether you feel like end of the book Kat would have advice that she'd like to give start of the book Kat, or advice that she'd like to give, you know, the readers of her book, the young people.
Oh, I love that question. Oh my God. Oh, wow. I think, sometimes I feel like Kat would just slap herself at the beginning of the book. You know, what are you doing? You know, like just the way she does not want to pass her maths exams, because, you know, what if she's in the top class, and like, how is she going to deal with that pressure, because she's got all this other stuff going on in her life? And and you know, she can't be too good at soccer because then, you know, everyone's going to say, oh, you should be in the rep team, and you know, people putting pressure on her. But she's not enjoying her life. She, you know, she talks about feeling like her life is being spent in a waiting room, waiting for, you know, all the excitement to start. But you know, it's not until the end of the book she realizes that she's the one that's responsible for opening the door and getting out of her own boring waiting room, and it's done by stepping up and allowing herself to shine.
Which I think we can all take from that too, ladies. I think we need a challenge for not just the week, maybe the rest of the year if we can do it. It might be too hard. Give compliments like authentically and making sure they're real and accepting them graciously. I tried this for a day, and then the person who I did the challenge with complimented me 1 minute later, and I was like, oh no. She's like, you're failing already. What are you doing? I went, oh yeah, that lasted a minute. Let's give it another crack. I'm ready to give it another crack. We'll see how we go. Now, I don't know if you know Di Walker, but she's just commented and said, what a great discussion. So thank you, Di. Is Di
Yeah.
stores?
Oh, she's a beautiful presence on Instagram, and she's obviously a writer as well, but she's just supportive of, you know, we were talking earlier on about how, you know, we're all women, and it's great to be strong women and to know other strong women and to encourage other women to be strong. She's one of those women.
I love that, because there used to be this thing, probably not our generation, maybe before that, of women in, you know, rivalry. And I'm like, where does this come from? We love each other. We were building communities together and building each other up and liking each other's pages and saying, you know, do whatever you want to do. So I'm glad that's a thing of the past, even if it was a thing. I don't know. Maybe it was just a thing that was in TV shows. I don't know. Too much Desperate Housewives or something.
I really love that about Australian writers and Australian women writers, that like supporting each other, and the YA community. We see the authors, you know, shouting each other out and supporting each other all the time, and it's just so nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful community. It's know, one of the best, I think. Now, Angela, question for you. I ask everyone who comes on the podcast this question: why do you write?
To get the thoughts out of my head. I've got so much to say to this wonderful world, Danny. Yeah, and so much to say to young people as well, and hopefully, you know, hopefully they hear my voice. I want them to hear my voice.
Well, I think they certainly did in your beautiful book. And we've lost Georgia because technology always does that. You know, whenever you're using Zoom, if someone isn't, you know, coming into the background, or your sound's not working, or someone doesn't disappear, you're not really on a Zoom meeting, are you? So we just roll with the punches here. But I was hoping we could say goodbye to Georgia. She might pop back on. Otherwise, we've loved having her part of the conversation. It was probably a good time to drop off when we're wrapping up. At least it wasn't earlier. That's Wi-Fi for you, right? But, you know, what a joy. Oh, she's back. She's back. We'll just wait for her to come back before we do the goodbye. Hi, Georgia.
Actually, if anyone like listening who lives in Sydney, you should listen to Georgia's show on Hope 103.2. She's always just got, I don't know, just great stuff to say. Never anything negative, you know.
Well, that's good. I will definitely give it a listen. I've loved catching up with, you know, the four of us doing different things, but contributing to, you know, the community in different ways, and starting these different conversations about books and about women and about life. So, you know, it's been really nice connecting with you all. Now, we can't see Georgia's face, but she's trying to connect. It's probably a Wi-Fi thing. But anyway, it's been a real joy chatting with all of you tonight. Congratulations, Angela, on your beautiful new YA book, Step Up, Shine On. And
thank you.
Yeah, it's such a nice, fun, uplifting book, and the characters are beautiful as well. And what wonderful company to have shared it with, you know, you and Bron and Georgia out there somewhere, lost in the Wi-Fi, lost in the Wi-Fi maze somewhere. But thank you so much for being part of this Zoom party book launch. And thank you everyone for watching live or watching later or listening later. And that's the beauty of technology. You can jump in and jump out whenever it suits you. Remember when, you know, we were growing up, I know you might be too young, Bron, I'm not sure. No, not too young.
Whatever it is, I'm not.
I know stuff. But, you know, when you're watching TV and you had, you know, 3 channels and you had to run to the toilet and come back or get your snack and, you know, that just as the ad was finishing, you know, this generation will never know that you can watch anything, anytime, whenever you want and pause it and go get your snack and it's all fine. So we still remember and are scarred by those days. So I think that's why podcasts and these kind of live stream videos are really great, because people can tune in whenever it's convenient for them. So I think that's wonderful. And thank you so much for celebrating your book here with us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you for always celebrating literature. It's just wonderful. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Sorry we lost you, Georgia.